Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Fantasy Commander. Fantasy Commander is brought to you by Signum Games. It's for 1 to 4 players, ages 12 and up, and games generally run 30 to 90 minutes. In Fantasy Commander, you will take part in the epic clash within the Signum world. Take control of the armies of fantastic creatures and glorified heroes. Although the game is basically a 2-player game, even more participants can get involved in the additional game modes. Moreover, you'll have a unique opportunity to go through the single-player campaign and thus master the basic game rules. The game is designed with an unusual combat mechanic that allows players to almost simultaneously make all decisions and lead their armies on the battlefield. Act quickly, decisively, and simultaneously. And watch out, every step that you take can either bring victory closer or deprive you of your well-deserved crown. Before another battle starts, you can easily change the structure of your armies or include various advantage cards of your faction into the battle deck. While during the battle itself, you can flexibly change your strategy, adjusting to the circumstances, and even change terrains on the game map at your discretion. And so, there are several game modes in Fantasy Commander, which really do differ in style of play and the objectives that are going to be assigned to you. First, we have scenarios. Now, this is probably the easiest way to learn the game basics. You're going to choose one of the available scenarios and follow the specified conditions in setting it up. Now, in order to start this scenario, you're going to have to use the recommended armies, or you can create your own once you get more familiar with the point limit being kept in mind, of course. The goal of the game, you're going to have to achieve more victory points than your opponent by completing the tactical missions. And then we have Battle Royale, and you can get multiple players in on this. It is kind of king of the hill, and in this mode you have the maximum freedom to build your most epic armies, and also in generating the game map, you can do whatever you want here. The goal of the game in this mode is really the complete elimination of the enemy armies. And then we have Standalone Campaign. Now this is probably going to be my favorite, and I can't wait to experience more of this, but this mode is perfect for those heroes who are not afraid to challenge their fate, getting into a long adventure full of danger. Here you'll have to fortify your settlement and repel the enemy raids, going through multiple related scenarios. Although your goals may change from one mission to another, the eventual victory in the campaign will be determined by the reputation earned and the well-being of your town. So I'm not set up here for any specific scenario or game. I just laid everything out to kind of show you the different pieces, some different terrain, different monsters, different heroes, and your infantry and so forth. So we'll take a look at their cards and what they do in a minute. But in general, you know, you're going to go consult a campaign book, or you're going to consult a mission book of some sort and lay out the map, and you'll find your starting locations for the armies, and you'll get all that ready and prepped in your event deck, and it will show you the objectives. And I like in the campaign book, and the sample that they gave me was very much story driven. It had lots of story around what you're doing. You're trying to kill the vampire right out of the gate in the first mission. Ton of fun. But in general, you are going to have all those different types of game modes and experiences that you can play. And in the end, it is a battle. It is a miniatures battle game. So you're going to be rolling off, you're going to be battling back and forth, eliminating troops and heroes and monsters, trying to win the battle or achieve the goals set forth in the mission. So you'll be assembling your armies, either using the point system or a predefined, you know, it's like 250, 400, 500 point armies, whatever you decide you're going to do for the scenario or whatever game mode you're playing in. But you know, these units are going to do some different things. You have 3 different types really. You've got regular units like infantry, or you've got colossal creatures, or you have heroes of old that you can employ out into the battlefield. So these different types of units are going to have their own unique card. And you'll see on the far right of the card, they all have like a special ability. Some of them are active all the time. The other ability will have a cost, potentially, that you'll have to pay in order to activate. And then along the bottom, you have your general type of stats. First is your health. Now, if you have infantry, let's say, and you've got 4 units of infantry, that's going to be your health. As you lose those different units on the battlefield, once they're all gone, they're wiped out. But if it's the colossal creatures or the heroes, that's straight up their health. They're just going to take damage until they're eliminated. And then you've got your attack dice that you're going to be rolling next. You've got your defense dice, and if you've got any ranged abilities, and then your movement. And there's 2 different numbers here for movement. either you're just doing a standard movement or you're running. So that's why you have like 1 to 2 or 2 to 4, something like that. So those movements you need to keep in mind, because sometimes running does help, but you'll have to take a stamina hit potentially, which you do have that stat as well. So if you run out of stamina, it definitely impacts you through the course of the game. Now, each of the armies or factions has their own event deck, either using basically a predefined deck based on the army or scenario you're playing, or you've created it on your own, which you can do, which is really nice, trying to mitigate some of your luck perhaps. But the event deck is going to have a series of different types of cards. You've got special faction type cards, you've got misfortune cards, you've got terrain cards and curse cards, things like that. And they're going to all come into play and perhaps radically, change up what you're doing in that particular round of the game. But the thing here is that the misfortune cards are kind of universal. They'll get added to the event deck. And if you ever want to get rid of these cards, you can pay 3 of your order tokens. You have a pool of these tokens. We'll take a look at those in a minute. But you can pay that to remove the card, which really helps because there's some pretty nasty things in that misfortune. It is a misfortune deck after all. And then you have quest cards. And again, based on the scenario, you'll put together these quest cards. You're trying to get the victory points that they call for. One of the different ways potentially to end the game is to go through all of these quest cards, but you want to hold on to them, gather the victory points, and whoever has the most is going to win. It's that kind of deck. But some interesting things here to follow and keep track of. It's kept face up for all the players to see, and when you achieve the goals that it calls for, you'll grab that card. All right, let's take a look at the basics of play. Now, obviously, you're moving around the map, doing various things to attack your armies or go after victory points, whatever the scenario calls for. There's these terrain types you have to be aware of as well, because some are impassable. You've got rivers, you've got rocks, you've got different areas, different buildings and terrain types to move into. You have to be aware of line of sight, all those types of things that you would normally see in a game of like this. But you have 3 phases to any one round. You have the command phase, you have the action phase, and finally the end of round phase or the VP counting phase. Either way, that last one is kind of a tidy up. Now, this command phase, you have these pool tokens with symbols and colors. So you've got red, green, blue, purple, and yellow. So they're gonna activate in a certain order. So red is first, then you've got blue, green, purple. Purple is more of a wild though. It can really activate whenever you want within this chain. And then you have yellow, which is kind of a pass. Yellow really is units that aren't going to activate this turn, and you have unlimited number of the yellow ones that you can use. However, the rest of your tokens, you need to generate this order pool, and you're looking at your cards of the units that are in play. Some have colors and symbols already associated with them on the far right. You'll see and pull those tokens, put them behind your player screen. The other cards are going to have a dice, so you roll the dice and generate your order tokens for this particular round. And again, putting them behind your player screen, you're there going to decide which units you're going to activate this round. And you'll place the colored tokens on the ones that you want to activate, first, second, third, and so forth. Remembering that purple is going to be your wild, and you can activate it wherever you want in that chain. And yellow is kind of, again, the decoy. Those units are not going to activate, but you might think they are. So you'll place all your tokens out in the field showing what's going to activate, or you could put them on your player cards. Either way, you have to visually put these out. And then in the action phase, you're going to flip and we're going to go to battle. And so this action phase is much like you'd expect. You'll be activating your units, using them to go into combat, move across the battlefield, and deal with different types of terrain. But what's interesting is that every time you activate a unit, you have to draw an event card first, doing whatever it says. It could be good, it could be bad, so you have to keep those in mind as well. And when you activate units, again, you have all those choices. If you go into battle with melee, let's say, you're going to be taking your dice and rolling it, and your opponent will roll their defense dice. And it's just a numbers game there. And it's just a battle or a dice chucker, which I really like in battle games like this. I do love dice, but there are some additional symbols on here, like if you get the red with the feet, it means you're either fleeing or you're retreating, and that adds a lot of interesting dynamics to the game as well. So you are trying to do those different things, and also being mindful, if it's a victory point game, you're looking at the cards if you're trying to achieve whatever it says here. So those are all the things you're trying to do. You're moving around the battlefield, trying to eliminate your opponents, trying to get victory points, moving through the terrain, and it is very scenario specific. There's also ranged attacks to keep in mind. You're trying to set up your armies and position them for whatever the scenario calls for. And it's important to note that all your different types of heroes or infantry, whatever you're doing, will have their special abilities as well as a paid ability. So your different tokens, your command tokens that you're playing, you might save some back to spend on these special abilities, which is important for sure because you can activate maybe ongoing effects and so forth, which will expire at the end of the round, but can add a lot of flavor to the game and what you're doing and using those crucial abilities at the right time. And then of course the last phase is the end of round or calculating victory points to see if you won, things like that. And you're tidying up basically, and you'll discard any of the command tokens not used because you will generate them every time at the top of the round. So again, it's going to be very scenario specific, and whoever wins is going to have the most victory points, who eliminated armies, whatever game mode you're playing, but you hope to be the army that comes out on top. Alright folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form, so keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, with that said, they've always done a fantastic job with their miniatures, and this is no exception. They look amazing, absolutely, even in this prototype form. And the fact is that this game does have a bit of that sandbox feel to it, because you can, as you learn the basics, then expand the game and build out your own armies and build out your own event decks, and also just build out your own scenarios and the world you want to play in. But I do like the fact that they have the single player aspect where you can jump in and really learn the basics of the game. And it really is straightforward, especially you have all the information you need for your different units on their cards as you move through this world and hopefully conquer. All right, folks, if this is like something that might be of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it for me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.